Welcome to After the Buzzers Sports Podcast, the show where sports and the realities of being an African American athlete are discussed in a real way. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, are we live?
Yes.
Okay, so guys, thank you for joining us yet again for After the Buzzers Sports Talk Show. We are here today with Mr. Basketball Marvin Orange and Lee Jones, and of course myself, Raquel, and Mar Thomas. We got a very cool lineup today, and I'm super excited to share. The topics are going to be pretty racy, so we definitely want you guys to chime in and give us your feedback. We're going to open the show up talking about Drew Brees and the kneeling of the national anthem, his comments, and his apology. I think he had two apologies. We're going to go over that. Then we're going to move right into the Denver Broncos and Coach Vic and what he has stated about racism and its discrimination in NFL, which will piggyback on my comments from last week in reference to my feelings on what the NFL is to our country and how it has properly represented our country, in my humble opinion. We'll move on to Seahawks Coach Pete Carroll, and we'll talk about his stance on Kaepernick and what he feels we owe him, especially in the current climate that we're in. Then we're going to move on to Clemson football, player Tuttle. He made some comments on Twitter. We're going to go over that, and we're going to also talk about Coach Sweeney and something that has happened within their practice that has kind of been ignored. We're going to bring it to the forefront today. And NFL owners have been very quiet since the protests started in our country. I think Jacksonville's coach, he posted something on his social media, and we're going to talk about that in heavy detail because I think it warrants a conversation. But in doing so, he is the same guy that donated $1 million to Trump in 2016. So I would love to get you guys' thoughts on that. Do athletes, both white and black, have responsibility to speak out with the current issues that are going on in the world today, especially those who call themselves friends to African Americans in our country? The NBA has proposed a 22 teams to play to finish off the season. We're excited to have that conversation, and we definitely want your thoughts on that as well. Not going to college and signing with the NBA G League. We talked about it a little bit last week. We're going to talk about it again this week. And then we have a top player in the country, high school kid, 15 years old, Mikey Williams, considering going to a HBCU. How does that change the platform for college sports today? Guys, we are going to wrap up with our top 5 NBA centers, and I'm super excited. Really curious to see what my co-hosts have in store for that. But before we get started, speaking of centers, my son, my 7-year-old Roman, said to me, "Mom, on Tuesday, Wes Unseld has passed away at 74. If you guys know anything about Roman, he's a diehard Baltimore everything fan, Raven fan. He's an avid study guy, so he knows the history of the Bullets, Baltimore Bullets." And he said, "Mommy, did you know?" And I said, "No, son, I didn't know." But he went on to tell me and recap the career of Wes Unseld. So we want to pay homage to him today.
Absolutely.
For the career that he had and what he did for the Baltimore Bullets, took them to their only championship. Again, I didn't know this. My 7-year-old educated me. But Wes Unseld, we want to thank him for all that he did for basketball, and more importantly, all that he did in Baltimore. My ex-husband went to his elementary school, and he did a lot in that city for underserved communities. So thank you, Mr. Wes Unseld, for your service. Guys, you ready?
Let's
Drew
go.
Brees. I gotta give it to Lee first. My God, Drew
Oh
Brees.
Lord. Here we go.
Lee, your comments on Drew regarding the NFL players kneeling and his stance on that.
Well, this whole week has been shocking. We're going to talk about Vic Fangio in a minute, but for me, with Drew Brees, the first thing that comes to mind with him is, look, a person has the right to have their opinion on anything. I mean, he said back in 2016 when Kaepernick first kneeled, and he said it again on Wednesday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, whatever day it was. He said it again. I mean, so these are his true feelings on how he feels, and that's okay. You know, a person has a right to voice his opinion, has a right to put his opinion out there, and so I think he spoke his truth. I don't think that he meant any harm. He spoke the truth of the way he felt. But in saying that, he has to be willing, able, and man enough to accept the backlash. And there was a lot of backlash. And so for me, hey man, say what you feel. If I'm an Army veteran, hey, I would kneel for the flag for a social cause because I think it wasn't about the flag. That wasn't about the flag or the national anthem. I've been at football games, basketball games. We've all been there, and half of the stadium still sits, right, while other half stand. And we don't say get out of the stadium. We don't say go home because you didn't stand for the flag. So let's be honest. That was his feelings. That's the way he felt. That's okay. But you have to be able to accept the backlash of it. Now, I'll give Drew two things. One is he's always done a lot of things. Donated to Katrina, donated to COVID. But, he has a right to say, I would not stand. But, hey, in that right that you have, we certainly have a right to voice our opinion on your comments and to say that you're colorblind. I mean, that you have blinders on when it comes to looking at what really Colin Kaepernick and all the protests are going on right now. So Drew, I think he tried to clean it up. I'm more of an action guy. I mean, it sounded good on the apology. I mean, all of his friends are coming to his defense. But let me tell all of his friends one thing before I turn it over to you and Mar. Where were you back in 2016 and now when Colin Kaepernick has been trying to get back in the league, when he tried to do his workout? Where was all of the support for him? I only heard NFL players saying, well, he's not that good anyway, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. So you come to Drew Brees' defense. He's a great guy. I mean, he does all of this. But Kaepernick started the protest, and you still haven't band together to try to get that man back in the NFL. Shame on you guys. And look, I still say Drew Brees has a right to say whatever he wants to say. Just own your truth, and then, hey, let your actions show how you are going to be going forward.
Well said, Lee. Yeah, I'm gonna take a little different perspective on this because I see it a little bit differently. He absolutely has a right to say whatever he wants to say. That's what they fought for in the military, for us to be able to express and to say the things freely that we like to say. But let's talk about it from maybe a social aspect a little bit. Like the American flag, you can line 10 people up with the American flag, and it could represent something different to every single one of those people. Okay, from a cultural standpoint, from a race standpoint, from a white perspective, the American flag represents opportunity. It represents pride. It represents, my great granddaddy or my ancestors coming back from the war and have an opportunity to build middle class families, to own homes, all these kind of things. So I think when white athletes, when white people, the flag to them represents something different than it may represent for us on all levels. Okay, not saying that we don't honor the American flag, but it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing to us all the time. We can go back to World War II when our ancestors fought in that war, and then what they came back to was oppression, sitting in the back of the bus, no rights, no ability to gain from all of the things that you got as a veteran. We all know affirmative action actually started off being a white cause, not black. So, those are the things that when he sees the American flag, that's what he thinks about. And for people to say that Colin Kaepernick was being disrespectful, he's just trying to bring awareness to the fact that we need to understand that everybody doesn't see it the same and that some of us are being oppressed in different ways. And just to have the conversation about it. And I love everything that's going on right now, but we got to have sustainability. Okay. Colin Kaepernick did what he did because it was something every week that would bring it to the forefront of people's attention to talk about. How long are we going to sustain this movement right now? That's what I'm really interested in. So I don't have a problem with what Drew Brees said. I don't think Drew Brees is a bad guy. I think he has done a lot for Katrina. When Katrina hit in Louisiana, I absolutely think he did a lot. But I also think this is a time for him to learn. This is a time for him to be able to learn what it really means for people that don't look like him and to be open to hearing that. And I think that if anybody can probably start this conversation and bring some people together, it could be Drew Brees, because he does have some cachet in the community. And he can come out and say, hey, you know what? I understand, and this is what it represents to me, but I hear how you feel about it. And I hear the opportunities that you haven't had. So, that's kind of where I stand on it. I think we need to look at it different ways. Drew has been a great player. I think he's been a great ambassador for his city. But it's also time that we can open up the conversation with someone like Drew Brees. That's where I stand.
I agree with both of you guys. I don't think what Drew said was necessarily horrible. I think this may be a time to be quiet if you're not pro what's going on in the country, because we are very sensitive in the climate that we're in. The question was, was his apology enough? I think so. I agree. I think Drew is a really good guy overall. I think most of us have some type of prejudice one way or another. Doesn't matter what color we are. But I'll say this. He gets the right to have his opinion. Absolutely. He gets the right to say, my grandfathers fought in World War I, II. But you also have to respect why we kneel. And they're two different things. We're talking about two totally different things. You want us to pay homage to a country that allows Black police officers to go uncharged, unharmed, no penalty for killing Black men, women, and children. Black men, women, and children, not just Black men. So he's kneeling because the flag has not stood for us. So if we're not gonna represent all of the country, I'm not gonna represent just the white part of the country. So the kneeling is beyond who fought in what war. It's beyond that. It's about what's going on right now and the injustice that African Americans are receiving right now in this country. So Drew, I respect your opinion. I think Drew's a great guy overall, but we're talking about two different things, in my opinion. So is his apology enough for what he said? Yes, but he needs to take a bigger stance on what's going on in our country, and more athletes in the NFL need to support why Kaepernick actually is kneeling. This is why he kneeled, because you put your knees on the necks of Black men in public in broad daylight, and it's recorded. That's why he kneeled. Has nothing to do with your grandfather and what your grandfather did or did not do. Irrelevant. He's kneeling because white men are hanging us as they did 100 years ago, but with their knees in broad daylight. So that's my 2 cents on that. Denver Broncos.
Let's see if he's going to join the fight to get Kaepernick back in the league. See that I'm an action guy. I'm an action guy. Drew did a good job, and his apology and his rebuke of Trump and all that stuff. But let's see what Drew's going to do when as the people have already started that groundswell of getting Kaepernick back in the league. I'll be listening very closely to see what Drew Brees has to say about Kaepernick getting an opportunity back in the league.
Absolutely. He needs to stand or be quiet, in my opinion. You stand with us or you be quiet. And I feel that way across the board. If you're not standing with us, then be quiet, because we're sensitive right now. And this is a season of chopping heads off. So if you're not with us, be quiet.
Yeah.
And we also have a comment from Facebook from Poppy Griggs, who agrees with Raquel. She says he is absolutely a good player, and it's his opinion, but you have to respect the kneel.
That's right.
Have to respect it. Excellent. Well said.
Thank you, brother.
Well said. Well said.
All right.
Appreciate it, Poppy Griggs.
All right, so Denver Broncos, Coach Vic, he recently stated that racism or discrimination in the NFL, it really doesn't reflect the NFL. Last week, I said I thought the NFL was a great reflection of the country we live in because it's you look at the coaches, you look at management, and what color are they? They're certainly not black men. Then we look at the players that actually put on the uniforms, predominantly black men. So if the NFL is a great representation of our country, well, I think we just beg to differ. I think it is exactly what our country is. However, it is what's wrong with our country, not that it's great. I think the NFL is a direct reflection of our country, and racism and systematic injustice. The NFL represents everything that we've been talking about. The NFL represents knees on necks. You want to say it's fair, but you don't have black coaches and black managers, but you are operating in a predominantly black NFL. I don't understand. I don't understand the comment. It is almost elementary to me to make such a comment when you look at the pure data and the facts of who's coaching, who's managing, but then who are the horses on the field? Who makes the money for the NFL? Now, America was built on the backs of black Americans for free. We don't have reservations. We don't get paid as the Indians do. So we built this country for free. But yet the NFL is a representation of us? Absolutely not. Totally disagree. Marv, what are your thoughts on Coach Vic's comment in reference to the NFL and it being such a great league?
Well, I guess in his perspective, that's the bubble he lives in. Here's some things that we do know. Racism is embedded in our society, right? So of course it exists in all of our institutions. The NFL is one. Raquel, I think you brought up a good point. I mean, I think the NFL is maybe 75% African American. We got maybe 3 coaches of color. We've got 2 general managers of color, I think, out of 75% of the players. I mean, what more needs to be said about that? But there's also a different perspective. I'm gonna come from it from a player's perspective. I've been in locker rooms. I know some of my guys out there who have played sports on a high level. See, when you're in an environment of sports, you have guys who regulate locker rooms, right? You have guys who regulate franchises, and inside that bubble, you are all one because the locker room speaks. We could take the Baltimore Ravens back in the day when you had Ed Reed and you had Ray Lewis. Those guys regulated that locker room. So, yeah, it always seemed harmonious. When you were together, we're one. We play for one. You know, we're this, we're that. But once you get outside of that bubble, of course, we know we exist in a different world. So I think he's speaking from a lens of we're all harmonious because we come together for one cause, but the numbers don't really speak to that. So I think that he could have said that, you know, the NFL could be a good microcosm or could be a good indicator of how we wish to be as a society, but there are a lot of things that we need to kind of overcome to make it be that way. So I see what he was saying because he lives in a bubble, so to speak, and you have guys who just kind of regulate franchises and it never becomes an issue internally. But I still think it was a pretty jackass comment to kind of come out and say on a national level that he doesn't see racism. I mean, come on, man. Come on, bro. We know better than that.
Right.
What you think?
Yeah, Vic, in my opinion, Vic Fangio is the poster child for white privilege. Let's be honest. You've been in the NFL for well over 25 years coaching. You get to bounce around the league and go from team to team. You get to hold one of the glamour positions, defensive coordinator, and you get to fail and get another try. So yeah, for you, life is good. I mean, shit. I mean, excuse me. You get to live the American dream. I mean, it's great for you. I mean, you get to go here. You finally, after 20-something years, you get a head coaching job. You get to lead men. So life couldn't be better for you. But what about those 45, 50 African American players that you coach? You're insensitive to, as you said, Marv, anything outside of what's on the field. Because you have a TV, you have a radio, you see everything that's going on in the world, but you also see that when you look around you, you don't have any offensive coordinators that are black. You don't have any defensive coordinators that are black. You don't even have any quarterback coaches that are black relative to the number of African Americans that participate. So the pipeline to be head coaches is as bare as a baby's bottom. Okay, it's bare. So, and then you don't have any general managers, as you said, Marv, and for minority coaches. So, how can you, in any shape, form, or fashion, say that there is no racism in the NFL? That's an out and out blatant lie. He knew it, but like you said, Marv, from his lens, hey, life is good. Right. I finally got my NFL head coaching job. I'm the man now. And, you know, really, the hell with the rest of them. Life is good. And you know what? I get to demand of my players to where he said, you know, everybody's equal on the field. That's not even true. You know, that's not even true. Right. Because half the time, and Marv, you know this, even from a basketball perspective, it's not the best 15. It's not the best 12. It's who they think represents particularly the communities that you live in. So let's be honest about it. Racism exists in society, and it's rampant in the NFL more than most organizations. Let's be honest about that, and let's call it for what it is. That was a foolish comment from Vic Fangio. And the other thing that I'll say about both Drew Brees and Vic Fangio is this. Boy, I tell you, we're such a forgiving people, boy. Some of these people are better Christians than me. I try. I really do. But we're a forgiving people, boy. All they got to do is come out and say, I'm sorry. I'm going to learn and do better. I'm going to, I talked to some of my players. Oh, you didn't name one player you talked to. So the player couldn't refute that you had that conversation. Let's get over it. Vic, show me some action. Show me how you've learned from it, but it was an insensitive, foolish comment that he made.
And that's also a form of the privilege that you have to be able to see things that way, right? Like, I'm a white coach, this is kind of the lens that I look at it from. I don't see the oppression. Like you said, Lee, life is good. I got my job. I'm living good. I'm making generational wealth through this on the back of black athletes. Like, what's wrong? Why y'all got a problem with this?
Y'all making millions, y'all getting paid, everything is good.
I think the only way that they really understand is you have to take all the black guys out and show me what your NFL looks like. Take all the black players out, the running backs, the horses, take all the black guys out, and let's see how that legacy looks now. Let's see what the bank account looks like now. Because we could certainly create, and hypothetically, an all-Negro NFL. Where do the dollars go at that point? So, yeah, I think you're right. He's a jackass for making that comment. And I think at some point, these guys have to put down their white privilege. And first of all, understand that they have white privilege because they don't really articulate it that way. Some of them really don't know they have privilege. So they need to sit their white privilege on the shelf for a moment, turn on the TV, and simply put themselves in a black mother's shoes and a black man's shoes that has a knee in his neck. Just put yourself in that situation, and then maybe you would understand more, because every time they speak, it's annoying. Like, for whatever they're saying, it's like they're not looking at TV. They're not seeing the same things we're seeing.
So hopefully from this, this is where, with players like Drew Brees and Fangio, who is a coach, hopefully you can start the honest conversation here, because what you bring up, Raquel, is a good point. It's maybe you can get just the right group of people who will start to say, you know what, maybe I just need to shut up for a minute. Maybe I just need to shut up. Maybe I do live under a bubble that's privileged that I'm good with, and we not mad at you. We just need you to listen for a second, because that's where the change is going to start. So hopefully that's what this, George Floyd, this is tragic, and we've been seeing this for a long time though, but hopefully this starts the movement of the conversation to where people just start listening to what we've been saying for a very, very long time. So that's what I hope from this.
Black players don't, and Raquel, you touched on it, they don't understand or know the power that they yield in dealing with this thing called the NFL, right? And they're starting to do that with the video that they put out. We put it on the Facebook page. So if y'all haven't seen it, go to our Facebook page after the show and watch it. The first thing that we have to do as NFL players is come together. You left your brother out there hanging when you knew that his cause was just, and you wouldn't band together to say, no, we're not going to play until Colin Kaepernick has a legitimate chance. But you're allowing Vic Fangio and to a lesser extent Drew Brees, because Drew Brees has some reserves in his bank for what he's done in that New Orleans community. But Fangio, you don't have a leg to stand on. Saying that.
What have you done?
Yeah, that foolishness that you're talking about, and spewing that kind of stupidity out of your mouth. Go win some games first, man. Ooh. Win a AFC West title, and then say some foolishness like that. That's ignorant. And so I don't give him much rope at all. Look, win a game or two, or else you get fired like the rest of the black coaches have been. That's what I want to see, because that's ridiculous what he said, and I don't subscribe to that at all.
And we've got another.
We are 2 topics back to back in full agreement. That's history for us on After the Buzzers. We have Seahawks.
What's coming? Don't worry about it. It's coming. Don't worry about it. Let's be that.
Hey, I have another. We have another Facebook comment before we go further. From Poppy Griggs. She said, "Lee, you are speaking volumes. They see what's going on. How can the NFL utter the words 'no racism exists'? Apologies 401 years later is not an authentic apology to me. Sounds like they understand 75% of our players are black. Let's talk about Roger Goodell."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this about Roger. Roger makes $44 million a year, and probably he'll probably get a raise next year because the new TV contracts are coming up. What I'll say about Roger Goodell is this: I see that he as a commissioner, his heart, to me anyway, is in the right place. It's only so much as a commissioner because he works for the owners.
He works for the owners. He can't do that.
When you have half of those owners that support Donald Trump and donate to his campaign and all these type of deals, he has to satisfy those owners to keep that $44 million coming in. So he wants to do things. He put out there the thing about hiring black coaches and the draft picks. Like I said, I'm lukewarm on that, really on both sides. He wants to do well, but you have to change those faces in the room first. If you don't change the faces in the room from an ownership perspective, you're not going to change that because, hey, you and I know we're going to watch the football games. So giving minorities some chances to be in that room and to express themselves, and you may get a better product. But black people, black players, they have to band together. And let me say this. You remember, Marv, and then I know we have to move on, Raquel, when the Donald Sterling thing happened with the NFL, with the NBA, right. Those players weren't going to play. They said, look, if you don't get him out of here, we're not going to play. See, that's why I love the NBA players. They'll bond together. Look, we're not going to play until he sells this team. Bottom line, y'all do whatever you want. 3 days later,
it was sold.
He said he's going to sell that team. The NFL players, they started it, but they yield a lot of power. they have to start doing stuff like that. I know we have to move on, Raquel.
Well, and I'll say this: the NFL players don't have the same power that NBA players have, because now you're talking about dollars and cents, and NBA players have guaranteed contracts. Their money is coming. Yep. NFL players, their dollars are not guaranteed. So, guys, you're talking about livelihood. You're talking about changing the trajectory of their lives and taking care of their families. So I think the NBA players have more room to say, I am not playing. You will treat us right. You will do us right, or I will not make dollars for you. Yes, you give me a paycheck, but ultimately the money that you give me as an NBA player, you're making so much more money off of my back that I'm going to show you a lesson, because guess what? You're going to pay me anyway because you've guaranteed my money. Now, on the other hand, you have the NFL players. Look, if they don't play, they don't get paid. And they still got to eat, guys. They still have families. So I think they have to do something in regards to some type of union, some type of
Black coalition.
That they have more power, because you really affect their lives and their livelihood. And some of these guys really do live paycheck to paycheck. I know that's hard to think that happens, but I'm telling you, there are many athletes that live paycheck to paycheck. So if they don't get that paycheck, they're in trouble. So
Raquel, Monday after Sunday's game, you get your even though ESPN let Josina Anderson go, I might have to boycott them for a while. But you get your reporter to leak that the Black players said they're not playing this Sunday until this happens, and let that build up throughout the week. They won't miss a game. The unity of the players and putting that message out, they won't miss a game, because something will happen before that next Sunday. This is about dollars and cents. Yeah, the Black players, a lot of them don't want to lose that weekly salary or that check. But if you put it out there the right way, they're not losing any money, because the mere threat and what it would do to the TV deals and that week of revenue for the NFL will be enough of a threat to say we have to make some things happen. I know we have to.
Yeah, we have to band together, and we haven't done that. We allow Kaepernick to fall by himself when there should have been other players willing to kneel with him and walk with him. So I think overall, and I know we can talk about this all day, but they have to band together. That's the gist of it. They have to come together. They have to be on the same page. They have to agree to all not play. So we're going to move on to the Seahawks, and we're kind of talking about this already. Pete Carroll stated that we owe a tremendous amount to Kaepernick because he took a stance when nobody else was really, really willing to, and he lost his career because, we often say in our families, if you're going to live, you have to be willing to die for something, or life really doesn't mean anything. And for Kaepernick, he was a great example of that, in my opinion. He kneeled, and he knew the repercussions, right? He knew that I could possibly not play, I could possibly not get my paycheck, et cetera, et cetera. So to Pete Carroll's point, we owe him a lot. He's been standing and kneeling for 3-4 years without us really being behind him, without white coaches being behind him, white players, Black players, across the board. So to Pete's comments, what do you think? What are your thoughts on his comments as to we owe Colin a lot?
We all know we owe Colin a lot, but forget what Pete Carroll's saying. You know why? This is the lip service that we talk about, right? This is let me appease in the moment because this movement is big and I want to be on the right side of it. But you had a chance to be on the right side of this in 2017, I want to say. 2018.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When they were going to bring Colin Kaepernick in for a tryout. And the first time they didn't sign him, it was because they signed somebody, I think, named Austin Davis. Okay? Second time they had an opportunity. Austin Davis, someone like that. Second time they had an opportunity to sign him in 2018 to be Russell Wilson's backup. He said that Colin Kaepernick is a starter in the NFL. That's why we didn't want to sign him. Okay. And Colin Kaepernick also told him that he could not agree that he would not kneel in protest during the national anthem. So Pete Carroll, whatever. That's basically how I feel about what you're saying. You had an opportunity to be in front of this. You had an opportunity to make a stance with not the words, but with the actions of giving Colin Kaepernick a chance to be in the NFL, which we all know he should be. his resume speaks volumes over guys that are playing right now that shouldn't even have a jersey on. So what Pete Carroll's saying to me right now is in one ear and out the other, and that's the issue. The issue is that we get lip service after lip service after lip service, and there is no action behind it. That's why, Lee, we were talking about earlier, it's so important to see what Drew Brees does from this point. Yep. Okay? The words are great, but all we've heard are words year after year after year, and there's been no action behind it. So now you want to come, 2020 hindsight, and you want to say, oh, well, we owe Colin Kaepernick so much, but you had a chance to do something. You didn't do anything, so shut up.
Shut up, Pete.
Oh, Marv, I like that aggression, man. That does my heart well. I love that aggression.
Shut up, Pete.
Look, Pete. Little history on Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll was a failure, and I use failure lightly in the context of all the success that he's had now. But think back to the England Patriot days, the New York Jets days, and then when he got to USC, and you recruited all of these high-profile black athletes, right, that got you that ultimate success at USC, winning national championships and going undefeated, and all this, the beauties that you gained at USC, even though you were cheating, and we know, and it was proven that you were cheating, but we'll throw that out there for another discussion another day. Then you get this contract at Seattle. And again, we talk about all of the percentages of black athletes that are in the league. You have got your riches and fortunes, and I like Pete Carroll. I think he's a halfway decent guy, but you've got all your riches and fortunes off of these black guys. And Marv, you hit it on the head. You had an opportunity. Colin Kaepernick fit what you were doing at the Seahawks to a T. And it's disingenuous to say that he's a starter in the league. That's why we didn't sign. That, for any person that is a fool and just casually watch football, they might accept that. I dismiss it 1,000% because you want a starter caliber quarterback as your backup in case Russell get hurt. It was disingenuous, and now your revision is saying, oh, it was great, but it wasn't great then, Pete. That's sad. Again, like you've said, Marvin and Raquel, keep your mouth closed. When you say these stupid things, nobody wants to hear it. It's the signs of the time. Prince, let's hear it for him, the purple one. It's the signs of the time. And keep your mouth closed because nobody wants to hear this stuff. What I want to hear is Seattle is bringing in Colin Kaepernick for a legitimate tryout so that he doesn't have to sign waivers and all this foolishness. And let's see if the man still has it and sign him. That's what I want to hear. Other than that, I agree with you, Marv. And to use Mr. Basketball's Marvin Owens expression, shut the hell up. That's what I say.
Man, just shut up, man.
Yeah, I think I think they have to be quiet right now. Again, and if you're not standing with us, and you haven't been standing with us, and we can't go back and pull your comments from 2 years ago, then you got to shut up, or you're going to be scrutinized in a way that I don't think they're prepared to be, because they want to be looked at as good guys right now. That's what they're searching for in the midst of our chaos, in the midst of our heartbreak. They're looking for a pat on the shoulder to say, oh, there's a white guy that's standing with us and for us, when the truth of the matter is, because of the time, they're trying to appease us when they had the opportunity to do so, they did not. This topic, going on to Clemson, I'm surprised to hear.
Let's get close to home.
Tuttle come in and say, and he played for Clemson, that, hey, Coach Swinney allowed a coach to call a player a nigga. And I know we have N-word on the strip, but we're going to say nigga because it needs to be said. It needs to be heard. When we are called that by white folk, and in many ways, that's fighting words, right? You big enough to call me a nigga, then I'm going to be big enough to put my hands on you. It's typically what happens in a locker room. That's typically what happens amongst teammates. I am surprised and disappointed because I'm one of those people that cheered for Coach Swinney. I'm one of those people that said, you know what? It's so awesome to have this kind of guy, Bible thumping, father-like, daddy-like guy support all players, not just white players, but all players, Black players. You know, we all know that our kids are going in without father figures, and to have them go into a program that you just felt the world felt that he was really taking care of our guys. Well, I don't know how I feel about him anymore, because to allow an adult, a coach, another father figure, another protector of the players to call a Black player nigga during practice. I don't know.
It's
I don't
tough.
know. Is he the guy that we thought he was? Is he the guy that I thought he was? Is he that guy? Because let me tell you this, as a mama bear, as a Black woman, if you call my son a nigga in front of me, you have repercussions to pay, one way or another. One way or another. And I'm not necessarily talking about hands, guys. I'm talking about I'm going to affect your paycheck. I'm going to affect, the world's going to know. I am going to eat you like a corporate handbook. And we didn't know about this until now. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on good old Clemson football?
Go ahead, Mark.
Listen, and you know, I think everybody that knows me personally knows that I'm not fond of Clemson. For a multitude of reasons, but I know Dabo a little bit personally. He was at the University of Alabama, albeit he was a senior when I had just got to school. I know his story, and I know a lot of guys, Black guys that played football with him that are my friends now that ride with him hard, and so I think I know who he is, but money changes you, right? That brand of Clemson football, what he's built. What is Dabo making? $8 and $9 million a year, maybe at this point. Yep. Like, the brand has become bigger than the individual. For me to know, and I know this for a fact, for me to know that did happen, for him to never address the team, to never condemn that coach in front of a team where you make $9 million off the backs of these players that never get paid a dime. And I'm a former college athlete. Athletes need protection. They need guidance. They are looking for people to help them in a multitude of ways. And you have a man that's sitting up there making $9 million a year, and you know that he just called one of your players a nigga, and he never said a word about it. He never condemned the coach in front of the team. He never suspended the coach. There was never anything done. That to me just kind of speaks volumes to where he is in terms of his brand in Clemson football right now. I think the brand is bigger than anything else at this point. And it also bothers me that, you know, and I know he's a very spiritual, faithful, Christ-centered man, but it sometimes it bothers me.
Slave owners were too, by the way.
They were. Sometimes.
Just want to
and sometimes it bothers me that you're absolutely right, Raquel. And sometimes it bothers me though that in this moment where he had a chance to really be like, you know what, I messed up. I didn't do anything. I messed up. My players deserve better. This team deserves better. This university deserves better. I messed up. But he hid behind faith in his comment. Like that's the safe place for me to go here, because I don't really want to say nothing, but Christ teaches us we all need to be better and all this. Man, come out and say something. Don't hide behind it. Don't hide behind it and want to try to appease everybody because you don't want to shake up all the donors who are giving you $1 million handshakes. Say something. Clemson ain't firing you. You make them too much money. You're not going nowhere. But you talk about making a difference with young Black men and people who see you, and this again is the start of the conversation that we need to have with people who can make a difference. Dabo Swinney is a person who can make a difference in the minds of a lot of white folk. Let's just be real, okay? He could start that conversation, but he hid from it. And the young player that had these comments or said that it was said to him, his father goes way back with Clemson. His father played under Danny Ford. And if anybody knows the history of Clemson football and Danny Ford, I'm just gonna leave it at that. So there's a history to all this. So I just think Dabo could have done better. It's hard for me because I do know him a little bit personally, and I've never known him not to be someone that would stand up for others. But this kind of feels a little different to me.
Before Lee gives his opinion, Lee said earlier, we are such a forgiving people. And we just heard Marv, he's trying to forgive him, right? He's trying to find a way to say, come, hey, we are such a forgiving people. The question still stands. If he allows a white coach to call a player a nigger, is he who we thought he was? It's very black and white. Is he who we thought he was? Whether we know him personally or not, because we don't sit at the dinner table with the man when he's with his wife and children, and when he's with his father and grandfather. We don't know what that's like. So the question still stands. He allowed a coach to call a kid a nigger. Is he who we thought he was? Period. We know what he showed the world. We know that. And I'm a person who, man, spoke highly of this guy. And I don't know him personally because of what the perception had been. Is he who we thought he was? And if you say yes, then how does he allow something like this to happen and not address it? Because let's be clear, he doesn't have this type of success without Black athletes.
Period.
Let's be clear. Without those Black athletes that are being called nigger, and if it happened once, it happened before. That wasn't the first time. It wasn't the only time that it's happened. Does he have the same career? Does he get the $8 million, $9 million paycheck? Does he shake the $1 million hands without the Black kids that he is allowed to be called nigger? Is he who we thought he was? Lee.
Look at you. Hey, Lee, I like that, Raquel. I like
before you start.
Green. Go ahead,
before you start, just something to ponder because I know you're getting ready to go off. Does he call the young man a nigga if college athletes are getting paid?
Good point.
Does he feel like he has that control if college athletes were getting paid? Does he feel like he could have the right to say that if kids was like, nah, bruh, this ain't how it's going down?
Probably not.
I just thought about that. Probably not.
Probably not. I think he should have been fired.
No doubt about it.
Bye. Shut up. Goodbye. That's what should have happened to him. He should have been fired.
The way the story goes, as I was doing the research on this topic, Raquel and Marv, the player and Coach Perriman got into a little heated argument, and the player went over and he was talking to the other player, and he said "nigga" to the player, and supposedly, and I'm gonna give you the supposed, Coach Perriman said it and heard it, and then he said it to deter that. Well, let me tell you why I think that can't be true, because if a coach, and if I was coaching and I heard, and I was a white coach and I heard a Black player say nigga to the other person, I'd stop practicing and I would have said, young man, that word is I want everybody to come in. That word is a disparaging remark, and none of us on the team should be saying that word, right? And that would have been a rallying cry for the entire program, and Dabo Swinney could have used that as a motivating tool to say, we're all one family. It's the paw, right, Marv? That's what they call it, the paw. But that didn't happen, and the reason we know that didn't happen because of the discuss of Tuttle and the other players that was in that incident. And what it tells me is, because Perriman has been there for a while, and he's been there with Dabo since he started. What it tells me is very similar to, and God rest his soul, I'm going to make a reference to Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky. Very similar to how when you have these coaches that have been there with you for a long time, you tend to look the other way in certain situations, and you sort of minimize it because of your relationships with these people. And I certainly think this is what was done here. I think Dabo minimized the situation. He sort of swept it under the rug, and I think that was a disservice to every African-American player on that team. And Marv, I agree with you. On the surface, I've seen nothing or heard nothing but good things about Dabo Swinney. But we heard great things about Joe Paterno too, didn't we? And so these type of things tend to happen when you're close and you say, that's a one-off. And Raquel, I agree with you. If nigga come out your mouth once, you've said it again before. Because if you haven't used the word nigga, it ain't gonna just flow off your mouth, right? You've used it before. I think the man should have been reprimanded in front of the team, and allowed the team to have a voice about what that man said. I think that was a disservice to the team. And you're right, we heard not a peep about it when it happened in 2017, which is disservice while Dabo is winning national titles. So now your squeaky clean image has taken a shot. Now, again, we'll see how he rebounds from it.
Right.
I agree with you. Last thing I'll say, Marv, you're right. He had an opportunity to come out and say, I must get better. I shouldn't have allowed that to happen. And we as a Clemson community, we're going to make sure this kind of thing never happens. Never heard him say it. Haven't heard him say it to date. He owes that to his players and all of the players that have come before these ones and now, because he's dead wrong in that.
Yeah, and we have another comment from Facebook, actually a couple of them, from Poppy, and she says, first, Dabo is no longer that old high school guy that you once knew. I agree money changes people, but you're right. He did hide behind his religion, the N-word, and not to stand up. Then she said, I would hate to think Dabo is not what we thought. The N-word is not acceptable. And finally, she says, Raquel, I agree. He should have been fired.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I'm hypersensitive, having a Black son and a Black daughter, but more so a Black son, because we are losing kings right now. And I'm gonna tell you, if I was that kid's mother, the world would have known. He would have been fired if that were my kid, because it would have not gone unheard by the masses. So it's unfortunate. We send our kids off and we pray that they're protected when they go into these college programs, because we know what our kids mean to the program. We know how much money our kids make these programs. We know that these programs are on the backs of our children, on the shoulders of our children, and we expect for you to take care of them, protect them. As Marv said, college players need protection. They're away from home. They're young. A lot of them are coming from underserved communities, and they need that support. It's not a matter of want. They need it. So it's a very unfortunate thing to hear. Certainly changes my opinion on Coach Swinney. I looked at him as one of the good guys. That has changed drastically for me. And he was a guy that I really thought was just a stand-up guy overall, but stand-up guys don't allow something like this to happen.
Yeah. Kept it under wraps because they didn't think that those young men were brave enough, and Mr. Tuttle is brave enough to put it out there and accept the consequences that come from it, from the Clemson family, and I commend him for doing that. That's
absolutely.
That's another thing.
Absolutely. That's a part of standing up. That's a protest, in my opinion. That's what protest is all about. We have to, if we know who they are, we know how to handle them. But when we don't know who they are, when they're hiding behind religion, behind the Bible, we don't know how to deal with them, because we don't know that they have that spirit and that energy. So when they come out and you hear these kind of things, now you can deal with these people accordingly, because to know is so much better than not to know. But we do got to move on. So we're NFL, the owner of the Jaguars, he posted an essay on his team's page, and he spoke about his life and the effects of racism and social justice. And it was heartfelt, right? It was, if you go back and you read the article, and I read the article and I thought, man, this is what needs to happen. But then that same guy donates $1 million in 2016 to Trump's campaign. Now I'll say this. I'm a person that thinks Trump is a asshole to any and everybody, and I don't care what color you are. Black, green, white, Russian. It's who he is. It's his DNA. And I am a person who also would say Trump is one of the best business minds as an entrepreneur, as a serial entrepreneur myself. He's one of the best business minds to ever live. Whether he's done it illegally or legally, whatever, he's done it.
That's another conversation.
He's done it. Worst president we've ever seen, absolutely. Worst thing that's happened to our country, absolutely. But I think as fast as we can say that Trump is racist, we can also say he's sexist. We can also say he's all these bad things. So I don't necessarily put him in a racist box. I don't necessarily put him in he's just a bad guy. He's in a bad box everywhere. But if you donate $1 million to his campaign, I don't know. I'm back at, I don't know. Like, guys, so your essay is a complete contradiction of the $1 million you gave Trump. Because who is Trump to you? Who is he to you? What do you say when you say Donald Trump is? How do you describe this guy? Because however you describe him is a direct reflection of the $1 million. Lee.
You know, and we'll take it into a little context as well. Prior to his election, he called him the Great Divider, that he was dividing the country. Then he gave him $1 million. See, these NFL owners, one thing about them, they're a bottom line type of people, right? So once Trump got in office, you know, and they saw, well, he's the president now. We got to sort of, you know, kowtow to him now and get in his good graces. That's when they started, because it was his inauguration thing that they gave the $1 million to, because they knew they had to deal with him. And, you know, the backdrop of Trump was trying to get in the NFL for the longest.
Yes.
And the NFL owners wouldn't allow him to get in, basically. And Raquel, this is one of those times that we're going to disagree. I don't think he's a great businessman. I think he inherited a lot and he cheated a lot. But that, like Marv said, that's a different story. We'll talk about that some other time. But so they go with the win. See, when Trump made the comment and called the players the SOBs, they wanted to stamp it out immediately. Stamp it out. Now, as the country is in great protest, now you want to write the 800-page essay about social injustice and inequality. And just think about what Roger Goodell did last night in putting out that video and saying Black Lives Matter. The NFL is always going to look at that bottom line and try to get out front of whatever's going on so they can keep that $18 billion industry going, right? That's what they are. That's what Shad Khan did. He's getting out in front of it. So he rolled with Trump when they found out he was going to be president. He won the election. And then throughout that time, we're going to have to do something because President Trump is mad. He's going to get us. We're afraid of him. Now, as the November election is coming up and there are cracks in Trump's armor and people are thinking, well, you know, he's going to lose in November. We have to come up on this side of the equation now. That's why now you're hearing all of this social justice thing. We've said it all show. Show me. Don't talk about it. And that's the history of all those NFL owners. That's how they think. And hey, I read it, Raquel, and you know what? Hell, I can pen an 800-page and tell you about my social injustice. Y'all have both you and Marv crying right now. Poor Lee, poor Lee. I can do it just as easy as anybody can. I don't want to hear that mess. Go ahead, Marv.
But I do want to interject just a few things. I mean, we live in a capitalist society. You know, his donation to Donald Trump was all about the bottom line. I mean, his economic policies are going to benefit him. We know that. So He got $1 million to donate. He can do what he want to do with his money. I'm not gonna fault him for that. But I'm gonna ask some stuff to him about Mr. Shad Khan, because I do know some things on a different level. I know most of you remember J.C. Watts, who was the quarterback, University of Oklahoma, the congressman. I don't know if you guys know that he teamed with Shad Khan to start the first all-black news channel. And Mr. Khan gave a substantial amount of money to start this black news channel to serve underprivileged African American communities. And he also gave a lot of money to HBCUs to start training the next black journalists, because we are just, underrepresented when it comes to television and being on TV. So he is one of the few. He is one of the few that most people don't talk about that has put money in places that we would say, okay, now I see what you're trying to do. So yeah, it's a bottom line business. But if we're asking people to say, you know what, I don't want to hear no words. We all got sob stories. We all did this. We all been deprived certain things. But if he putting his money where his mouth is, and he's trying to serve underserved communities, he's getting with people that can make a difference, I ain't mad that he gave $1 million to Trump, because I know what it's about. I know
I'm mad. I'm mad.
I mean,
I'm mad. You know what?
That didn't get Trump elected.
I respect that, what you said, Marv. But you know what? The NFL has raised $45 million for social inequality right now. But they still just as racist as ever been. Look, Mr. Khan, I get it. And Marv, what you said is great. And I appreciate that. But too often, people stroke a pen and write a check. You have a voice now. You're an NFL owner. Speak truth, right? That's what I want you to do. Speak truth. The check is easy. $1 million. The man is like $6, $7, $8 billion. That's his net worth. So $1 million ain't gonna do anything, right? So we put that in the proper context. But speak truth. Speak truth now. Have we heard anything from? He penned it about social injustice, but we certainly didn't hear anything about the president in there and all these words and things that the president is saying and how he's trying to use the military. So speak to the truth of the matter. That's what I want. But too many of them, we said it, bottom line, and a couple of those major owners in the NFL are Trump's buddies. So I feel you, and nothing wrong with that.
Well, on the flip side, maybe speaking this truth was a stroke of the pen in saying, I'm going to give money to sustain, build communities, to build the next future leaders in the black community by giving them a voice, giving them an opportunity, giving them the training to build a career that they can build and they can build wealth on and they can leave to their families. Maybe that was his speaking his truth, saying, I'm not going to say nothing about it. I'm going to just do it and be part of something that might turn into something bigger than what the money wasn't nothing to him, but it's still the gesture of what he's trying to do that I'm saying that's speaking a little bit more than anything he could have said.
Was he the owner of the Jaguars when he did that, Marv, or was that prior to him getting the Jaguars?
Yeah, he was the owner of the Jaguars.
I can respect that. I still say he needs to speak up because he's a minority. And so he needs to speak up for what is going on in the streets and speak against Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has made statements about immigration and all of this that affects his people as well, as well as black people. So I can't give him a pass.
Donald Trump is an idiot when you're talking about just the country and his choices in running our country. He's an idiot, no doubt about it. I don't know. It's one of the biggest mistakes we made in the history of our country, but we're going to move on. And we've talked about this a lot. And it's the question that we're posing is, do white and black athletes have the responsibility to speak out about the current issues affecting the world? I think we can all agree that the answer is yes. If you're not speaking for us, then shut up. So I think that's an easy one. We can all agree that white, black, Spanish, Chinese, whomever you are, it is a responsibility to stand up and speak when we see what's going on in our country happening. We all have to stand up. We all have to speak. We all have to be on the same page if we want this country to be great again. it requires us all to stand up, get Trump out of that seat, number one. Number two, for all of us to stand up and say, this is a social injustice. This is a systematic issue. This is racism. This is. It requires all of us.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. I don't even. Do you want to expand on that, or we can go on to the next subject? But
we can go to the next.
The one thing I'll say about that, Raquel, is some people are not articulate enough to stand in front of the microphone and speak out, but they may be.
You have the action. You can show us.
Absolutely. That's the only thing I'll say. The action. Sometimes I like. Everybody can't be Chiefs. Some have to be the Indians, and so I feel that some people, I don't want to pigeonhole people, but shouldn't be out with the microphone in their face. They should be doing the actions on the ground. That's all I would add to that.
The NBA, guys, and this is my happy place, right? The NBA is proposing to resume the season with 22 teams, 13 teams from the West and 9 from the East, with an 8-game season. And they're going to play the tournament for the AC starting July 31st. I feel two ways about it. If it wasn't for what's going on in the world, I would be overjoyed, right? I want to see LeBron win the championship. I want
not this year, you don't.
But because of what's going on in the world, I kind of want LeBron and all the other guys to say, I'm not playing. You guys are going to help us. You're going to hear us. This is the protests that I think I would like to see. I think they would affect dollars in a major way. That TV money hasn't been placed in the owner's hands just yet. So I'm torn. If it wasn't for all this crazy stuff going on, I would be like overjoyed that the NBA is coming back to finish the season, give us our playoffs. Again, see LeBron take the ring. But right now I'm just so indifferent, man. I think it's just bigger than sports right now. And I think we need to make a stand.
I'm not torn. I think this hot. I think this is hot garbage. That's what I think this is.
You think it's garbage?
I think this is garbage.
It's a distraction too for them to play.
Well, listen. Here's gonna be the first thing we hear when LeBron win the title, because that's probably what's gonna happen. But whoever win the title, I don't care. But especially if LeBron won it, you know what we gonna hear? This don't really count. This was we're gonna put an asterisk by this because of the climate of the country or the pandemic we were dealing with. We're going to have to hear all the nonsense about why they shouldn't have played, they should have played. But even more so than that, I just don't want to hear it, because that's what's going to come from it. But even more so than that, this is the moment, right? This is that Muhammad Ali moment, right? Where you get guys collectively who have guaranteed contracts, who have more money than they're ever going to be able to spend. This is the moment where you stand and say, I'm not playing. This is the moment where there's something going on in this country that is bigger than 22 basketball games and a play-in tournament or whatever they're trying to talk about. This is the moment where you stand up and you say, this means more than basketball. That would be the conversation. That would be the change moment that all of these millionaires, and most of them are, we have a few outliers, come together and say, basketball's not worth it right now. These 22 games are not worth it. There's too much going on. And then this is the time where you can become an advocate. This is the time where your notoriety and your fame can speak volumes to bring in healing, bring in conversation, because you have that platform. And what bigger platform and what bigger stance that you can take than not playing a meaningless 22 games to get to the playoffs, to get guys who haven't played basketball in several months. I mean, the brand of basketball is not going to be that good. We all know that. Well, I know that I played basketball. I know basketball is a rhythm and flow and feel game. Whatever they're talking about doing, the product is not going to be as good. what's going to happen when somebody tests positive. Like, how is all of this going to play out? To me, with the climate that's going on right now, it is not worth it. And these players can have that Muhammad Ali moment where they say, you know what, we're taking a stand. This is what we believe in. Forget the NBA season this year. We'll reconvene with this next year. That's where I stand on it.
Both can't happen, Marv. Both can't happen, though. They can't continue to do that while the season, you know, you're going to have cameras in your face. You're going to have interviews. You're going to be able to sit down and
they already
talk
have
to TNT
that,
and ESPN.
They already have that. They've already
they're not
those things.
And they're not going to do it. When you back in and you playing, your publicist is telling you how you need to react and they're not going to do it, Lee. You know that.
And the truth of the matter is, if they decide to put on the uniform, they need to focus on winning basketball games and taking care of the job at hand. So I can't disagree with Marv. I told you I'm torn. I'm sure Lee wanted to
throw the ball up. Let's play. I'm ready for it. I want to see it.
You just want sports. You just want something on TV.
You tired of watching Black Power.
Yeah. You tired of watching rock skipping on ESPN. I get it.
I'm right with you. Hey, I'm the first one to get on the front line. But let me say this. Look, we're in a COVID-19 environment as well. And we have people who, as the cases rise throughout the country, the NBA coming back and entertaining people and keeping them home is an important reality for a lot of people, because these cases, with all this protest, these cases in a couple of weeks, these cases are going to jump, and you're going to be seeing more people with COVID-19, and this death toll probably spiked a little bit too. So the players unanimously, they voted to start the season. Let them finish. I'm excited about it. Now, I don't think it's overly fair to everybody, Marv. I really don't. And I agree with you. The quality of the basketball, especially, by the way, they're only going to play 8 games and then they're going to go into the playoffs. It's going to be kind of poor. But what it does, it gives, and I'm hoping that my boy Zion get in there and do his thing. But
Zion got his own issues right now.
Well, yeah, get off of Zion's back, by the way. Everybody takes money. Leave Zion alone. It's the American way.
You're about to bring dude down. Okay, go ahead.
But I think the play's going to be, I agree with you, Mark, porous until they get to probably the conference finals and going to the finals. But I like the fact that they're coming back and playing, because I think it gives America and people that love sports but a release. But also, they can still interview LeBron James and interview Kevin Durant and interview all these players that are in the NBA. And last thing I'll say, the NBA players have always been great as far as social justice. Over the last 10 years, they've been tremendous, and I think they'll carry that on as the season starts back up.
Yeah, but that's not the point. That's not the point, Lee. You want them to play because
that's not your point.
That's not the point. I mean, this is the deal. You will survive without 22 games.
I'm hurting right now, Raquel. You said I'm hurting real bad.
But and this is why I'm torn, because Lord knows I really want to see LeBron win, and I don't care what people say. One of the things that I can tell you, you're going to see who's who after sitting out for 3 months and see who get back on this court. And you're going to see the dynamics of the players that take care of themselves, the players that are working hard during the off season. You're going to see that too, as well as the flow of the game, guys connecting again. And you're going to see the teams that are really connected too, because you very well may have a team come out of the gate and they gel. You're going to see a lot of things.
New Orleans Pelicans.
But
Nothing.
I mean, I've never been so emotional in my dang on whole life until now. So if I had to choose, I would have to side with Marv, because, I said I was in the middle. I'm torn. It means more for our people for them not to play. We're in a bad way right now, man.
Yeah.
And it's not about what people are going to say, oh, it was this or that when it comes to LeBron and LeBron winning the ring this year. I don't care about that. A win is a win is a win, period. You know, when you win, you win. When you lose, you lose. That's it. But at the end of the day, it's hard to think that. I think it's a distraction too. I think white America say, okay, let's give them this bone, let them play so we can let up on this protest stuff. I think we have to keep protesting. I think we have to keep doing what we're doing. I don't want the protest to stop. And I think the NBA can join the protest and do it in a major way if they don't play.
Is Twitter going to stop? Is Instagram going to stop? Is all the social media platforms? They still have a voice. And
it's not about the voice. It's about the action.
Well,
it's about the physical action of saying.
But Raquel, they can take that same action and play as well. They do it in the regular season. They're going to be quarantined at Disney World. There are going to be cameras there. What else are they going to be able to do? They play golf, and that's about it. So there are going to be many players interviewed, talk about social justice. They have a platform there. The NBA has been great about doing it. I don't really see a drawback to them coming back and playing on the social justice perspective. Marv, I do think some people are going to get injured.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's going to hurt them going into December. But I don't see the issue of them. The NBA has always done a great job of that, and I think they can continue to do it. So.
And we've got another comment from. And we've got another. Hang on 1 second. We've got another comment from Facebook, and that comment is from Poppy, and she says, Raquel and Marv, I strongly agree. As much as I love me some NBA TV, take the stand, the 22 games on the table. Then it says, this is the kind of change we need. They are in key position to help make this change. That's what we need.
Yeah. And Poppy, I was liking you a lot. That's one thing about me, Poppy. I like you, but now I don't know. You're suspect. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Look, I'll say this. The things are not mutually exclusive. They can do the same. We act like them coming back for basketball is going to hurt. I think it gives them a bigger voice to continue to struggle. And it's not Mark thinking I just want sports back. I do, but I just think they can use the platform to do great things. So, Poppy, I was just joking, by the way.
They're already doing those things.
And let me. So Poppy has replied to you, and that was really quick. Poppy wrote, "Lee, we all want them to play, but unless we have all the NBA players take a knee on these last 22 games, we've accomplished only little with the protesting. We need all power coming from the athletes' entertainment world." And that's how we affect the ground, the people protesting.
Poppy's speaking some truth right now. I'm trying to tell you.
Like I said, Poppy, you all right with me. I just disagree with that. I just think, and I think you'll see as the season start back, the NBA players, I give them credit more than any league. They continue now along that social justice line.
No one is saying you're not right. We're saying it needs to be more. Yes. NBA players saying they're active. That's not the point. The point is not playing would be a bigger justice for us. It will really stay because it's a part of the protest.
How is not playing part of the protest?
What you're saying right now.
People are still going to work.
Because you want to see sports. It is bigger than sports. Right now, it's bigger than sports. It's bigger than championships. It's bigger than our people have knees in their necks. And if we can stop the dollar, we've been talking about support Black businesses. When you stop beating them, the dollar, and the NBA players will affect their dollar. If you can affect the money, then you can affect change. And that's the point. If the players don't play, they don't make the money. That is what this is about. It's about the protest to show how powerful our dollar is, how powerful our people are, and what we do for this country. That's what it's about, Lee, and you're missing that. This is why they can't play.
I'm not missing that.
Play.
I'm not missing that.
You're talking about millions of dollars.
I know that the NBA has been well ahead And if you go back and look at some of the philanthropic stuff that the NBA has done along social justice, they've been far ahead of all of it. And they continue to. See, I don't believe that we stop doing it. I think that the NBA and playing those games can add to it because, again, all of us get to watch them, their voice on a national stage on TV continue along that.
They don't need games to have the national platform. They already have it. They don't need a basketball game. People are listening. People are listening to LeBron doing
a platform NFL with 20
doing the NFL playoffs. People are gonna listen to LeBron.
It's a platform, Raquel, with at any given time 30 to 50 million people watching. Of course, they need that platform. I disagree. I know it's fine. Lamadre, help me out, man. They're getting it up on me. You help me, Lamadre.
No, my brother, you are on your own.
Doesn't go away, so he doesn't need a basketball game.
You're breaking up a little bit, Raquel. It's not about the basketball. It's not about the basketball. It's about actually what you're speaking truth about. And you can still play basketball and speak that truth, in my opinion. But we'll agree to disagree.
Lamadre is definitely on the right side of this.
I wish you a happy birthday last night, Lamadre. I'm vindictive. I take it all back.
We're gonna go to the next. We can't cut the dollar. It's not going to college and signing with the NBA G League pathway program, good or bad for youth basketball athletes coming out of high school with dreams of going into the NBA. You know what? I think we talked about this earlier.
I think we're having a little bit of...
Marv, you go ahead and take that, Marv.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's a good idea.
Time where you could go right into the, it was affecting college basketball, right? So they just went into the NBA anyway. I think.
Go ahead, Marv.
Yeah, go ahead, Marv.
Okay, yeah. I think that, of course, it's a good idea because it's such a small percentage of guys who can come from high school and go to the NBA. And if you are in that small percentage and you have an opportunity to go and make money, because, I mean, you go do it. There's no reason for you to go to college for a couple of semesters when you're going to be leaving the next year anyway to be a first-round draft choice. So absolutely. It gives you the opportunity to learn how to be a professional. It gives you an opportunity to learn what it's like on a daily basis to just eat, sleep, and drink basketball. All of the societal issues and all of the things that you're going to incur as being a professional athlete. So the sooner someone who has an opportunity to make money as a professional athlete can get into that, yeah, I'm all for it. There will be plenty of guys like myself and every other guy who played college basketball who wouldn't be in that position to be able to capitalize off having a skill set to play professionally. And college is there for us, and it's there for guys to perfect their craft and maybe get better and put themselves in a position to make money later down the line. But if you have that small percent of guys that can go out and make money professionally, I mean, let's do it as soon as possible. Let's stop playing games with them. I never really realized why they put the rule in effect anyway, the age rule for the NBA. They don't do it for baseball. I can understand it for football just because of the physicality of the sport. But, with basketball, it should be that way. So I have no problem with it at all.
Raquel, you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know what happened. I agree. You can always go back to college. You can always go back, but you can't always play. You don't always have that same skill level. So I agree with that 100%. Go on and play, make money. If you want to go to college, you can go when your career is over, or when things slow down a little bit. There's always college during the summer months. So I agree with Marv 100%. Go play, go make money. Because the window does close. I think we all can agree that for athletes, that window doesn't stay open. You can be great one season and, Penny Hardaway the next. So it's important to go ahead and play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lee.
Don't talk about Penny, by the way. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. I don't like that, okay?
See, I like Penny, but, he could have been one of the greats, right?
He could have. You're right. No, you're right. Injuries.
So you have to play. While the iron is hot, you go play. You can always go back to college. College isn't going anywhere.
I've always said that argument is the brainwashing of our youth, right? It's the
Absolutely.
brainwash, because people go to summer school all the time. People go and back and get their degree all the time. I got my bachelor's degree at 26, and I got my master's at 28. Right, so people can go back to school and get their degrees anytime they want to. I always call it the brainwashing of our youth and their families, to say, "Oh, your son's going to be a dummy unless they come to college." Right? But you know what, Mar? They only stay a semester. So what did they learn in that semester before they go to the NBA? It's foolishness. And I've always said, if you can take advantage, and the G League is offering 125. Now, last year they offered the 125, nobody took it. But now players are getting up to $500,000 to go, and you can change your family's life structure with that type of payment in 1 year. And if a high school person wants to do that for their family, I say more power to you, Godspeed to you, and do it. And quit trying to brainwash our people, both mothers and fathers and kids, about this need to go into college basketball when they're not even trying to educate you, and you know that you're going to leave after a year. This age limit thing was simply one thing. It was the owners trying to keep themselves in check, because they were paying astronomical amount of money for high school players that some didn't pan out. Well, you have a scouting department. You have a player personnel and development department. Hire the right people. Let Marvin Orange be in your development personnel, and quit hiring these bozos that don't know what they're doing, and maybe you'll develop and have an eye for talent. So quit trying to brainwash these people.
And one more important point that a lot of people seem to leave out, it was also the NCAA had a lot to do with this, with the NBA owners, because the NCAA is the farm league for the NBA. Let's be real. So that was a big reason for it too. We need to make money on the NCAA level. Let's make a limit, get them in college for 1 year, make all that TV money off of them, like Kevin Durant and all the guys that we watched go through college that had no business playing. But that was the NCAA thing too. They got together and they put that together. So let's not.
You pimping the players, Marv. You pimping the players.
Yeah. All right,
everybody gets something. Everybody gets something except the players. You know, you pimping the players.
Exactly.
We're gonna move on, and we got to keep the next two topics brief. Okay, so get your 1 minute buzzers ready. Please, Lee, get your 1 minute buzzer ready.
It's always an attack on Lee. I don't get it. Poppy, help me out, Poppy. Tell him to get off my back.
So, and then we're going to open up the next question. So for the next two questions that we're going to pose, I'm serious. We need to hold this thing at a 1 minute time response. The nation's top 15-year-old basketball player, Mikey Williams, is considering going to a HBCU. And that obviously would change the status quo. I'll go first. I think that out of the top 50 players in the country, it will be amazing if we can get at least 20 to 25 of them to go to HBCUs. We would change the financial situation of HBCUs, and you still will go to the NBA. You still will be seen. Davidson isn't an HBCU, but we all know Steph Curry went there. It's a very small school. He got national, international viewership. So it can be done. And we do need our Black athletes to go to HBCUs. We changed the whole dynamic of what a HBCU can do and can become, and we can put that money back into Black communities. We talk about Black Lives Matter, the Black dollar matters, the power of the Black dollar. The power of the Black dollar starts with Black athletes, and we can change the trajectory of sports in HBCUs if our kids would just go to HBCUs. We can create that same atmosphere that we've created at white colleges at Black colleges. If we would just take our kids there instead of allowing them to do what's normal, they will still go to the NBA, they will still make the dollars, but we have to do it, and we have to do it together, and it can't be just one kid. Marv.
It can't be, but one kid would be a good start. I was talking with my cousin yesterday. I'm going to give him a little shout out. Teddy Keaton, head men's football coach at Allen University, which is an HBCU. We were talking about this yesterday. It only takes one kid to me, because with that one kid, and especially if you get the top player from high school to go to an HBCU, you know what's going to follow him? ESPN and TV rights. Yep. That's what's going to follow him, and that's going to put that HBCU, every game they have, is going to put them on television. What does television bring? It brings money. What's going to happen with that HBCU? Then your enrollments are gonna rise, which is going to bring more money. So if you can get just a few of those kids to commit to an HBCU. Television and money will follow because they're going to put them on TV every game. And that's how you change the paradigm of college sports. So until we can do that, we'll still be having the same conversation, but it only takes a few. So I'll leave it at that.
Real quick, I know I got 1 minute. So the economics of the HBCU would change drastically by doing that. And what you and Marv just said, I agree, ditto. It would change the trajectory of everything in these small, rural communities and all the HBCs, ESPN. They're going to follow the kid. They're going to follow the kid. And so much money can be generated and so much notoriety for these HBCs. It'll go up tremendously. So I agree with everything you guys said. Let's hope he goes there, because if he goes, it'll put a bug in every other top athlete because of the experience that they'll have at that historically Black college would be such a benefit to them. And
as an HBCU graduate, I can agree with that 100%. It is a family atmosphere. You're with people that look like you, that understand your struggles. So not only do you get to keep playing the sport that you love and get an education, you're amongst family.
Yeah.
All right, next topic. Good job, Lee. Good job, Marv. Now this is where it's gonna get a little sticky. 1 minute, and I'm gonna start with you, Lee.
Well, let me say this.
Who are your top 5 centers in the NBA all-time top 5? League, you got it.
I got 1 minute, so I'm gonna be very quickly. So, because I have two tracks I have to go, Marv. If we're talking about achievement and accomplishments, that's my first track. I go Kareem.
Don't give us your top 5.
Okay, I'm giving the top 5.
I go not 2 lists. 1. Give us your top 5.
Well, I'm gonna go with if I'm starting a team. Forget about achievement, because achievement cries for the people. So if I'm starting a team, I'm going number 1, the Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal. If I'm starting a team, I want Shaq. Shaq changed the game. They went to zone defenses because Shaq was tearing down rims and breaking people's arms. Shaq would be number 1. Wilt would be number 2. Kareem would be number 3. Bill Russell would be number 4. And the Dream, Hakeem Olajuwon, would be number 5. You can't dispute it. You got to just love it. Woo!
I'm gonna tell you what, mine is different. And I'm going to split you guys. So my number 1 is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's my number 1 pick. Bill Russell is my number 2. Shaquille O'Neal is my number 3. Wilt Chamberlain, my number 4. And David Robinson is my number 5.
Oh, good Lord. There we go again. Oh, my God.
So, and that's my top 5. And that's winning games, achievements, championships, all that involved. Kareem, Bill,
I'm getting a headache right now. I got to take some aspirin. Go ahead, Marv.
I mean, listen, we all in the ballpark. We all the same. Number 5 for me is Hakeem. We all know Hakeem the Dream. We know what it is. Number 4 for me is going to be Shaq. All right. Number 3 for me is going to be Wilt. Number 2 is Russell. And number 1 for me is Kareem.
7-1. Marv, 7-1. 320. Let me say this. If Shaq and Kareem met, Marv, you answer this before we get off the air.
Tell me, which Shaq are you giving me? Which Shaq are you giving me? Because we had a lot of different versions of Shaq.
You take Kareem in his prime, and I take Shaq in my prime. There is no discussion. There is not a center in the NBA history that the 3 years that Shaq was the most dominant for, nobody could touch it.
Do you remember what Hakeem did to Shaq? Did you see what he did to Shaq?
First got in the league.
Hey, look, I don't care, man.
What did he do?
That's what I'm talking about.
Did you see him? What did he do on the 3-peat, Marv? What did he do on the 3-peat?
You can't tell me. You can't tell me Kareem when he gave Shaq 40 was in his sleep.
That wasn't Shaq at his best, though, Marv. What about, you ain't talking to me about them 3 in a row. Them 3 in a row when
guys, we have to look at the entire career of a player and not 1 season, not 2 seasons.
I'm not looking at you
career.
Oh my God, I need some Motrin or ibuprofen or something. This is
Kareem number 1 all day. Enough said. Kareem would have gave Shaq 40 in his sleep, and when he was in a question.
7'1", 225 pounds. Could he stop Shaquille O'Neal in his prime,
Marv? Okay, so he give you 40, Shaq give you 35.
And both of them were in their prime. He outweighs him by 100 pounds.
to kill
Don't care.
Your opinion. You can keep your opinion. We're not going to argue with you.
Raquel, where did David Robinson come from? You must have had a drink before you wrote that down. David Robinson?
Yeah.
I don't know about the Admiral, but okay.
Admiral.
Kareem and David are kind of tied neck to neck. The Dream, they're close, but David Robinson did a lot in San Antonio, and I don't think
he was a good center.
I don't think he was supporting cast that the other guys.
Not top 5, but he's a good center.
Yeah, he was a good center. I mean, I got not top 5. He's down to like 9 or 10 on my list. Marv, 7'1", 335. Who's gonna top him in his prime?
Kareem Skyhook all day, every day. I can score in my sleep on you.
If Kareem had to play this guy, man, it would have been.
And he can make free throws.
Oh, forget about the free throw. Shaq averaged 29 points a game and 13 rebounds and couldn't shoot free throw. Come on, Marv. Stop it.
Kareem all day.
Stop it.
He was even the best LA center of all time.
Marv and Lee. I know it's hard. We're not on the playground. It's time to go in. Recess is over.
Hey, so we do have a comment from Poppy that's I think you want her back, Lee. She said, Lee, violate the 1-minute buzzer. We'd love to hear your view. Lots of great points by all. The show really gives good perspective from all three of you.
Poppy, you're a great American.
And what's funny about that, she then ends with Raquel, play nice and take time clock off of Lee.
So Lee needs a little bit of help with control, Poppy. I think as you continue to watch the show, you'll see that he is very difficult for him to control himself. But hey, we have come to the end of the show. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. You've been with Lee Jones, Marvin Orange, myself, Raquel Richardson Thomas. Thank you so much, Lamondre Pugh, for moderating for us today and getting those questions out. We appreciate you guys. You've been watching After the Buzzers. Please, please, please make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. We are After the Buzzers Sports Podcast. We thank you so much, and we will see you. Soon. Yes, please tell a friend. We will be back this Wednesday for another show for you guys, and then again on Saturday. So thank you so much. Please share, tell somebody, share on your social media. We thank you so much for joining us for After the Buzzers. We will see you guys very soon.